Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcast. You're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I will be doing another live stream on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I know it's a tough time to do that, but I want to do that after practice, see another few more practices since I did the last one. Bring your questions, your comments, whatever concerns or whatever you want to talk about. But again, and at some point in the future, I will be doing some live streams later in the day for people who can join later. So I appreciate all of you who are maybe taking a break at work or maybe who are taking a day off. So if you're doing that, join me for the live stream. And if you're not able to do that, then check back around 3 o'clock because it'll be up on the Ampire site, and you can check it out there. So there you go. Now, in a few minutes, I'll be joined by corner Benjamin St Juste. This was an audio interview, and I know some people are going to ask, I want to see the video. I get it. But I've always found that, especially with some of these interviews, the best way to do it is with my phone, just as a recorder. Some situations you can do it otherwise. The conversations are better when it's just like this. So I feel like I get better answers, which makes it better for you. When I can do video, I do video, but sometimes it's just better to do it this way. It's more conducive to a better interview, which is all I want. Anyways, I wanted to bring St. Juste down because of the changes in the secondary with the scheme, with the coaching, with all of that, and kind of let him explain what's going on. Now, you heard when Craig Hoffman was on the podcast a week or so ago, we talked a little bit about this, but I think St. Juste was really good explaining some of the differences, why they feel confident that this year will be better for them in the secondary. And I think we've already seen some of that. And there you go. But I think he's really good at explaining it. I feel like he's a smart player. That's why, like last year, I was really confused by some of what we saw from him. And it's why I couldn't just write it off as just all on him, because I just didn't feel like the coaching was there. Now, I still wonder, how will he fit in with this defense overall? Same with Forbes. Are they going to be physical enough for what these coaches want? That remains to be seen. However, in the coverage, I think you should expect to see a difference. If you don't, then I think there's a problem. But anyways, I thought St. Juste was really good at explaining it. That's why I wanted to have him on. So it's only about a 5-minute interview. So stay with me for about 5-10 minutes. If you want to skip right ahead to the St. Juste interview, you don't want to see my lovely face or listen to me, go to the last about, again, 5.5 minutes. You can go there right now. And those of you who don't, let's talk a little ball. And I'm going to start with a couple of things on the defensive backs. The way I guys just kind of did that, because it is kind of interesting what they're going to do with the secondary and how many guys they can keep. I think that's going to be something to watch. At corner, typically, Dan Quinn has kept 6 corners. And I think he did that all the time in Atlanta. I think that was the case even in Seattle. I think that was the case in Dallas. It was almost, all right, I have my math right. I think it was always at least 6. Sometimes Dallas did some funky things because you get to the final 50, you get down to the 53, then you remaneuver the roster and set it a few days later for good for that first game. So, but there was usually at least that. So if you do that, you still like a corner, still like Forbes, St. Juste, Noah Igbegeni, Mike Davis, and then Mike Samerstill, who has been impressive. And beyond that, I think it's a battle. James Pierre is a guy who could flash up there. Tariq Castro-Field has had his moments where he's been called for a few penalties. I mean, most of those guys have, but so there's a little bit of a battle at the back end there. And then it depends on safety. I think that's going to be really interesting because you have Quan Martin and then Jeremy Chin. Percy Butler's been working as a third safety. Dominic Hampton. And then you have Derek Force, what do you do there? And Jeremy Reeves. So can you keep 5 or 6? Typically I would say 5, but we'll see how they do the math. Anyways, that's going to be something to watch. But I think one thing that's really stood out, all that other stuff, and coaches always say, that stuff always works itself out, whether it's injuries, people play themselves in or out of a job. So we'll see all that. But one of the things that's been dramatically better has been the communication. And it's funny because I think Dan Quinn said this the other day, that you can hear a good defense, right? Because when you're hearing them talk and communicate out there, that's when you know that they're in a groove. And I think you're seeing so much more of that than you did last year. And it's for a variety of reasons. I mean, shoot, last year, you had a linebacker who came in he was learning the defense. Can't call the defense. You had Jamin Davis, that's not his strength, right? You know, Cole Holcomb, when he was here, could do some of that, like what Bobby Wagner does, but it was just, he was kind of, you know, helping others and all that. And he couldn't play fast because there was so much he had to worry about or whatever. But overall, as a group, it was not a talkative group. And, you know, a couple of years ago, I felt like it was better with Bobby McCain. I felt like they did pretty well with that. And I think Chris Harris, the defensive backs coach, emphasized that quite a bit. Did not feel it was emphasized last year. You also lost some, you didn't have the right mix, I think, to if you want to communicate well, get some guys who are strong communicators. And that's something they didn't really have. And I know some of those guys in the defensive line had wanted the guy like Wagner behind them for a while because that's what he does. But it's not just him, it's a secondary as well. And when you, like last year, you would see, I mean, the lack of communication, we saw the result, but I do feel like you hear them so much more because it's such a big emphasis. It wasn't just hey, you guys got to communicate more. There's an emphasis on doing that. These coaches want to hear these guys talking all the time. And I'm just telling you, it was not like you'd want them to communicate, you'd want them to do this, but it wasn't emphasized the way it is now. And I think, you know, you want a team that plays fast. Communication's got to be a part of it. And the communication comes from knowing what you're seeing, being on that quote unquote same page, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you hear that a lot more. And I will credit Wagner a lot for that, but it's not just him. I think, you know, guys like, I think Quan Martin is a smart player. I think Sam Still is going to be that kind of a guy. I think Jeremy Chin, you know, veteran back there. So I think there's a few guys that are going to help in that area, and then it just filters down. But it is an emphasis because if they're not hearing you, they're going to make a point to make sure they do, or you're done, right? Because that means you don't know what you're doing. Anyway, so on Sunday they also cut cornerback Christian Holmes, another former draft pick under the Ron Rivera regime that was released this week because they released Dax Milne the other day. 33 picks in that regime, 19 are left. Of that 19, there's only a handful of guys that you say for sure will be on this roster. And you look at Quan Martin, John Bates, Brian Robinson, Sam Cosmi, Jahan Dotson would be another one. Let's see, then Emmanuel Forbes would be on there, and I would put Benjamin St Juste on there. I think Percy Butler makes it. Again, he's been working as a third safety, and he's a good special teams player, so he hasn't, right now, you'd put him on, right? And so it could come down between he and Forrest, so you get one of those two guys, but right now, Butler has been consistently working ahead of Forrest back there. That's, again, coaches like speed, and they like his special teams ability. Beyond that, a lot of questions, man. I think De'Ami Brown, will be on there for a couple of reasons. One, the deep speed. Again, speed. Coaches always want speed. And in this offense and with this quarterback, you're gonna kind of treasure that a little bit more. But I also think there's some special teams ability that he brings. He can play multiple spots, and they're not exactly deep there. Now, would it be shocking? No, but I would still right now I would have him on. And again, beyond that, just a lot of questions. Is Jamin Davis? Question mark. You know, we haven't seen enough of him at defensive end as an edge rusher on third down. Can he really help there? Has he shown that he can help there? Well, the answer is it looks like he's got a ways to go. That's what I would say. So in fairness to him, it's a new thing still. We're only talking about 9 practices and just a handful of padded ones. It takes a minute, but is he a guarantee? No. Fedarian Mathis, I don't think he's a guarantee either. Cole Turner, not a guarantee. Chris Paul, not a guarantee. Now, do I think some of those guys will be on here? Yeah, probably, because in some of those areas they're not as deep. Or Turner would be a third tight end if they don't take one of the guys and put someone like Yankoff on the practice squad or Armani Rogers on the practice squad, something like that. So, but is he a lock? No, for sure not. Chris Paul, I think it's possible, but is he a lock? No, not no. And I think one thing I wonder with him is when you see, like, and I told you the other day, working on a lot of screens. Well, is he a guy that's going to get out in space and do that? That's not really his strength. He's a guy inside that's got some muscle, can get his hands on you, but he hasn't shown that ability. So will that hurt him? I don't know. And they're not, again, we'll see where they go with that. And I don't know that anybody's I don't know right now. Julian Good-Jones to me has done a pretty good job in there. So I think, and he can play center, et cetera. So maybe he's a guy that surpasses him. So, but not a lock. KJ Henry, I think I could see him making it. Him or Andre Jones could definitely see one of those two making it. Braden Daniels, haven't seen it. Ricky Stromberg working more as the third center for the most part. Michael Dieter would be the second center. Do you need to have that third center on the 53? I think you heard Charles Leno on the podcast in the spring, if you listen to it, say something along the lines of that they felt Stromberg in the room among the offensive linemen. They felt in that room that Stromberg was the best center last year. Then he got hurt. So, and I just wonder about the impact of that injury. And they had to go out and they went out and obviously got Biadasz, and then they signed Michael Dieter. Will Stromberg make it? I think certainly not a lock. And so when you add it all up, like it was not a good era for draft picks. And it was a very flawed process. Marty Herney remains a consultant, but he's not around. I mean, he's not working out there. He's not out practices or anything like that. It was not a good, he was by and large had a lot of say in that draft, in the draft picks. And it was not well run. Okay. And I think that. I think we're seeing the results of that. I think now, will this current draft class be, all hit on everything? No, because you can look and say, I have questions here, because they're rookies. You want to see more, but but do a lot of them look like they can play? Yeah. And some, and some of the undrafteds look like they might be able to help. So I don't think, who knows where it goes, but I like the process that they have a lot better. It's more conducive to building a good roster. Anyways, but it's just another, and Christian Holmes was a 7th-round pick. I liked him on special teams. Didn't feel like he really developed a corner, and they have other guys who can play special teams. So odd man out. There you go. Anyway, now the last thing before I get to the Benjamin St Juste interview is the depth chart will be released on Tuesday. Now, keep in mind, it's an unofficial depth chart. However, the one thing that matters here is who's listed as the first quarterback, because that's going to probably be the guy that would go in and start the game against the Jets. Based on practice, it has to be number 5. I mean, he's been the guy going out there in the first 11-on-11 situations, he's the guy going out there first. Listen, we know the deal here, folks. And I know some people have posted some messages on the YouTube, but I'm with you. I would not put him in there with the second offensive line against the Jets. I would definitely want him with the starters, play him for a couple series, get him out, really get some good work on Thursday in that joint practice session. So, but that's the one thing you're going to look for is who do they put first at quarterback? And then left tackle will be the other one. Brandon Coleman has been the first guy out there most of the time lately. Part of that is because they need, actually Trent Scott has been working a lot at right tackle with Andrew Wiley out. Sometimes Lucas is there. But I don't see Scott threatening Andrew Wiley. And if he does, then it's, we'll see. But Coleman has been the first guy out there at left tackle. So that's another one to watch. And a lot of other spots, again, these are unofficial. And, sometimes in the past, like the coaches will tell them some things and then the PR staff might put together the rest. It's really that non-scientific, but there are some ones like they're not going to leave it up to someone else to do anything like quarterback. And it may be that this group does it all on their own, but there have been times in the past where the first depth chart is you get some things, and then some things are a little bit crazy because it's really not the coaches putting it together, because it's really, they haven't even played a game yet. So, that's when you're going to really know is after the first game or two, like where does it look? But you can also see in practice because you're seeing the rotation of guys. You're seeing who's coming in when and who's working with who. They do, push, move a lot of guys through, but you can start to usually tell. So anyways, but the quarterbacks we're going to pay attention to, because I'm assuming it would be Jaden Daniels. And if not, it would be a little bit surprising, but we'll talk to Dan Quinn on Tuesday morning about it before practice. And again, I'll be back after practice with another report with a live stream practice report. And then if you can't watch it live, then go ahead at 3:00. It'll be on the site. You can watch it then. There you go. Thanks as always for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time. Oh, stay tuned for the Benjamin St Juste interview. Forgot to say that. For you, like watching you guys out there, and Jeremy Reeves was saying this, Quan has said this, like that you guys are playing, that you're able to play with more of a freedom this year.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, what does freedom mean to a defensive back?
Freedom, to me, this year comes from the flow of information between us and the coaches.
Okay.
You know, like all being on the same page, like from the little things to all the big things. Like, you know, when I go out there on the field, my set of task of responsibility is clear and concise on what I need to do on this specific play. This is what we need you to guard, and this is what you need to stop. If they do something else, then so be it. That's the weakness of the defense. Previous years, there was a lot of gray areas where if this happened, we're going to do this, if this, and that, and the third. And then now you're starting to put a lot of information and thought into a player's mind where it's a game of it's very quick and fast and all details. You don't have time to think about a million things. So now it's very concise this year, so that's why guys can go out there and play free.
Do you notice yourself already playing faster because of
100%.
that?
100%.
Are there plays where you know, like, what's a play that you've made out there? It's like, that's because of the freedom I have.
I see the formation. I see, and I'm starting to read the quarterback. I'm starting to be more patient because I acquired enough knowledge throughout the years, and now I kind of know this is the only routes that they can run. So I don't have to stress about a certain route because that's the only two routes that they can run from this specific formation based upon the film study and what the coaches told me. So now I kind of reduce my amount of stress of what I need to guard, because if I look out there and I'm like, let's say, for example, there's three receivers to one side with Brian Robinson, the running back, on the other side, and just a receiver on one side. I know he's probably going to run either a slant or he's going to run a double move or a fade based upon if I'm press or off. But all that stuff is like analyzing super quick now because everything is like, you know, very concise on like what the coaches asked me to do. So now I got two routes to guard.
And it's funny because last year you talk about that. There were times like, well, we know that you guys are smart players.
Yeah.
And then there's a big gap in something, and that's from that gray area. Those big plays. Is that what that happens with that gray area?
Yeah, because what happened is that if the what if is not tackled in the meeting room, it's not addressed, then when we get on the field, you don't have enough time to think about what if he runs on the outside and we just plan on working on him breaking on the inside. If we're telling you that in this formation he's going to break on the right side and he breaks on the left side, but didn't tell you like what's the plan on if you do that, then you don't have time to process all that information. That's what happened, and we're like, oh shit, and then it leads to a big play.
So for you, and I'm watching the other thing too, I'm watching some of the drills. Like you guys they seem to be very big where you need to have your eyes on certain mirroring and all that. Is that different? I mean, I know that every coach is going to teach certain techniques, but what you're doing this year, the details with where to have your eyes, etc., is that different?
100%. I feel like, so we always worked on these techniques that you see right there. It's nothing new. All these other coaches in the past worked on that. Sure. But like you mentioned, now we're working on the details. Because everything, especially at our position, everything's on the details. Where your hands need to be, how many steps you need to take. What if he leans this way and come back this way? All the details are being tackled instead of just being, let's go out there and work this drill. And there's no explanation behind it, you know?
Really?
Now we're working on all these small details that's going to take us to the next level.
And it's funny because I'm watching you. You've had a couple routes against Terry where like the mirroring. I think there was like a couple days ago. But he has a route where he tries to take you inside. You're mirroring him. Then he stem inside, cut outside. You're right there. Take the pass away. And I don't know if you remember that play, but like, is that an example? Like, because you didn't get. There's no fooled movement or anything like that.
I know where my help is at, you know. The play is simple. I know my help is inside. I don't need to stress and go out there and chase him on the inside. If he cuts back outside, I'm there for him. And if he's inside, then Jeremy Chin is there, you know. So now there's no more like, you know, oh, what if he runs this, whatever. I'm going to just mirror him, like you said, and wait for him to come back outside.
How tough was it for you last year? Because, like, you know, you're saying all this and, all, you know, you had been in a good progression and, I mean, you were put in situations and for whatever reason that didn't go your way as a defensive back group. But for you, how did you assess your year last year, and what are you hoping to show now?
Honestly, I don't think I need to change much about what I did last year. I think like collectively as a defense, because of like how good we're gonna be this year, it's just gonna elevate my game like naturally, you know. But like now maybe, you know, I won't need to be everywhere at once. You know, I can just handle my part of the job, and you know, the front seven is gonna handle their part of the job. And the quarterbacks are going to be in distress. They're going to be running around, balls in the air, we can go and get it, you know. Everything's going to work all together that my game is just going to elevate to a certain point.
You can tell that already just from what they're teaching you guys, that you feel like that's how it's going to fall.
We're all going to be linked together, you know, from the D-line linebackers to DBs. Everybody's going to be doing their job because, you know, we can't have one group, you know, falling apart and then the other group is going to be falling apart. But, like, you know, for me specifically this year, you know, like, we're going for the pitch, you know. I had 17 PBUs last year. That's good. Let's go out there and put two hands on the ball, and that's something that, you know, our DC Witt is really emphasizing. Go out there and get the ball. Put two hands on, you know.
Good for a contract year.
Exactly. You got to get those interceptions.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.